There is a city in northeastern Iran, a city unlike most others. It is called Mashhad. In Persian, the name means the place of martyrdom. For centuries, Mashhad has drawn pilgrims from across the Muslim world. Millions of people each year who come to walk its ancient streets, to pray at its great shrines, to breathe its sacred air. At the heart of the city stands the Imam Reza Shrine, a vast and golden complex, domes that catch the light of the sun, minarets that rise above the rooftops, courtyards filled with the sound of prayer. It is one of the holiest sites in Shia Islam. And it was into this city, on April 19, 1939, that a boy was born. His name was Ali Hosseini Khamenei. He was the second of 8 children, born to a clerical family of modest means, in a small house not far from the shrine, in a neighborhood shaped by faith and the rhythms of religious life. The Iran he was born into was a country in transition. The Pahlavi dynasty ruled the land. Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi sat on the peacock throne. He looked westward toward modernity, toward Europe, toward America. But in the old neighborhoods of Mashhad, in the seminaries and the courtyards, in the homes of clerical families like the Khameneis, another world continued, quieter, older, deeper. A world built on the Quran, on centuries of Shia tradition, on a relationship with God that needed no modernization. This was the world Ali Khamenei opened his eyes to. A holy city, a faithful family, a country on the edge of great change, and a child who would one day stand at the center of it all. Tonight, we follow his journey from that small house in Mashhad to the highest office in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Slowly, calmly, from the very beginning. Close your eyes if you wish. We have a long journey ahead. We continue our story. To understand Ali Khamenei, you must first understand the house he grew up in. It was a small house, 65 square meters. 1 room, a gloomy basement in a modest neighborhood of Mashhad. By any material measure, it was not much. But inside those walls, something else was abundant. Faith, learning, discipline, and a deep, unshakable sense of purpose. His father was Sayyid Javad Khamenei, a Shia cleric of Azerbaijani descent, a man who had studied in Najaf, the holiest city of Shia scholarship, in what is now Iraq. Javad Khamenei was not a wealthy man. He was not a powerful man in any worldly sense. But he was deeply respected in the neighborhood around the shrine. People came to his door with their questions, their disputes, their fears, and he listened, and he guided. Ali would later describe his father as an ascetic, a man unconcerned with material things, a man who lived simply and thought deeply. His mother, Khadija Mirdamadi, came from another clerical family. She was educated in religion, in history, in literature, in poetry. She read to her children. She taught them to love words. Ali was the second of 8 children. He grew up surrounded by siblings, by the sound of prayer, by the smell of old books, by the rhythm of a life organized around God. He would later recall that sometimes for supper, the family had nothing but bread and raisins. When visitors came to see his father, the family would move into the basement to give the guest privacy. There was no shame in this. It was simply how things were. And in that simplicity, something was being shaped. A boy who learned early that the most important things in life could not be bought or measured. A boy raised on stories of the Prophet, of the Imams, of Shah Islam, of sacrifice, of faith, of resistance. These were not abstract ideas in the Khamenei household. They were the daily bread, more nourishing, his mother would say, than anything else on the table. In our next chapter, we follow young Ali through the doors of his first school and into the beginning of a lifelong education. Rest now, the story continues. We continue our story. It begins at the age of 4. Ali Khamenei's father takes him to the Maktab, the traditional school of that time, where children learn the alphabet and the Holy Quran. He is 4 years old, and already his education has begun. He learns quickly. His mind is sharp and hungry. He memorizes verses. He asks questions. He listens carefully to the answers. His older brother Mohammed sits beside him. The 2 boys learn together, side by side, day after day. From the Maktab, Ali moves to the Islamic school nearby, a more formal place of learning, with teachers who have dedicated their lives to the study of Islam. Here he studies logic, philosophy, Islamic jurisprudence, the great texts of Shia tradition. And here, something remarkable happens. At the age of 11, Ali Khamenei begins to dress as a cleric. The robe, the turban, the garments of a man of religion. On a boy of 11, this is an unusual sight. His classmates notice. Some of them mock him. They point, they whisper. They find it strange that a child would choose to carry such a weight. But Ali does not waver. He has watched his father walk through the neighborhood in those robes. He has seen the respect people gave, the trust they placed in the clerical class. He has heard the stories of the Imams who gave their lives for their faith. To him, the robe is not strange. It is a choice, a declaration, a direction. He is 11 years old and he already knows what he wants to be. He completes the intermediate curriculum in just 5 years. Logic, philosophy, Islamic jurisprudence, 5 years of work that others take much longer to finish. His teachers are impressed. His father is quietly proud. His mother reads him poetry in the evenings, Rumi Hafiz, the great Persian masters. And the boy in the cleric's robe keeps reading, keeps studying, keeps asking the questions that have no easy answers. In our next chapter, we follow Ali to the great seminaries, to the places where the most serious students of Islam come to learn. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. We continue our story. Mashhad has always been more than a city. It is a center of learning, a place where the great traditions of Shah Islamic scholarship have been kept alive for centuries. In its seminaries, known in Persian as the Hawza, young men come to study not just religion, but philosophy, logic, ethics, and the deepest questions that human beings have ever asked. It is into this world that young Ali Khamenei steps. He joins the Suleiman Khan Seminary, then the Nawab Seminary, two of the respected institutions of religious learning in Mashhad. Here, under the supervision of his father and a circle of distinguished scholars, he begins the intermediate curriculum. Logic, the art of reasoning, of building arguments, of finding truth through careful thought. Philosophy, the great questions of existence. What is real? What is good? What does God require of man? Islamic jurisprudence, the study of Islamic law, how the teachings of the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet apply to the practical problems of life. These are not simple subjects. Most students take many years to work through the intermediate curriculum. Ali Khamenei completes it at 5. His teachers take notice. This is not an ordinary student. His memory is sharp. His arguments are precise. His questions go deeper than those of most young men his age. But it is not only the intellectual subjects that shape him here. In Mashhad, Khamenei also encounters a different kind of thought. He attends gatherings of secular intellectuals. He listens to discussions about politics, about society, about the condition of the poor, about the relationship between faith and justice. He reads widely, beyond the religious texts. He encounters ideas that challenge him, that push him to think harder, to look at the world more carefully. A young man being formed by the tension between the ancient and the modern, between the sacred and the political, between the seminary and the street. In our next chapter, we follow Ali beyond Mashhad, to the great centers of Shia scholarship, to Najaf and to Qom. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1957. Ali Khamenei is 18 years old. He has completed his intermediate studies faster than almost anyone before him. Now it is time to go further. The serious student of Shia Islam must eventually leave home, must travel to the great centers of religious scholarship, must sit at the feet of the greatest teachers. For centuries, there have been two such centers above all others. The first is Najaf, a city in what is now Iraq, built around the shrine of Imam Ali, the first Imam of Shia Islam, the cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. Najaf is ancient, quiet, deeply serious. It is where the greatest scholars of Shia Islam have gathered for over 1,000 years to debate, to teach, to write, to preserve the traditions of the faith. Ali Khamenei travels to Najaf in 1957. He is young, he is eager. He attends the classes of Ayatollah Hakim and Ayatollah Shahrudi, two of the most eminent scholars of the age. He listens carefully. He takes notes. He asks questions after class. But his time in Najaf is cut short. His father writes to him from Mashhad. The family needs him. He must return. And so, reluctantly, he leaves Najaf. He goes back to Mashhad. He honors his father's wish. But he does not stay long. In 1958, he makes a second journey, this time to Qom. Qom is Iran's own great center of learning, a city of seminaries and scholars, of long corridors and candlelit rooms of men who have given their entire lives to the pursuit of religious knowledge. It is in Qom that the most advanced level of Islamic scholarship takes place, the Dars-e-Kharij, the outer lesson, where the greatest teachers lead their students beyond the textbooks into the living, breathing questions of Islamic law and theology. Ali Khamenei settles in Qom. He studies under Hussein Burjadi, one of the most respected grand ayatollahs of the 20th century. And then he walks into a classroom that will change his life forever. In our next chapter, we meet the teacher who will shape everything Ali Khamenei becomes. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1958. Ali Khamenei is 19 years old. He has settled in Qom, the city of scholars, the city of seminaries. And in one of those seminaries, he walks into a classroom that will change everything. The teacher at the front of the room is a man named Ayatollah Khomeini. At this point in history, Khomeini is not yet a world figure. He is not yet the father of a revolution. He is a cleric, a teacher, a thinker. But in the seminaries of Qom, his reputation is already formidable. He teaches Islamic jurisprudence with a fierceness and a clarity that few others can match. He believes that Islam is not only a religion, it is a complete system of governance, a blueprint for society, a guide for the affairs of states and nations. This idea has a name, Velayat-e Faqih, the guardianship of the Islamic jurist. The idea is simple in its foundation. In the absence of the hidden imam, the most qualified Islamic scholar should lead the community of believers. Not a king, not a secular politician, a cleric, a man of God. To many, this is a radical idea. To Ali Khamenei, it feels like a revelation. He listens to Khomeini lecture. He attends his classes regularly. He discusses ideas with him after hours. He reads everything Khomeini writes. A bond forms between the older teacher and the young student from Mashhad. It is not simply admiration. It is alignment. A shared vision of what Islam could be, of what Iran could be, of what must change. Because outside the seminary walls, Iran is changing rapidly. The Shah is pushing modernization. Western culture is spreading through the cities. The clerical class is being marginalized, and a young man in a cleric's robe is watching all of it, taking it in, forming his own conclusions. Ali Khamenei leaves calm with more than knowledge. He leaves with a mission. In our next chapter, we return to Mashhad, where that mission is about to become dangerous. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. To understand what Ali Khamenei would become, you must first understand the Iran he was living in. Shah Muhammad Reza Pahlavi ruled the country with absolute authority. He sat on the peacock throne, the same throne his father had seized decades before. The Shah had a vision for Iran, a grand and ambitious vision. He wanted to transform his country, to drag it, as he saw it, out of the past and into the modern world. He looked to the West, to Europe, to America. He admired their technology, their industry, their institutions. In 1963, he launched what he called the White Revolution, a sweeping program of reform. Land was redistributed to the poor. Women were given the right to vote. New roads and schools were built. Oil profits were poured into the modernization of the country. On paper, much of this sounded promising. But for the clerical class, for the men of the Hawza, for the scholars and the imams who had held Iranian society together for centuries, the White Revolution was a threat. The Shah was weakening their influence, pushing religion to the margins, moving toward a secular legal system, allowing Western culture to flood into Iranian cities. Cinemas, nightclubs unveiled women in the streets of Tehran. To men like Ali Khamenei, this was not progress. It was a kind of erasure. And there was something else, something darker. The Shah had a secret police force. It was called SAVAK, one of the most feared intelligence services in the world. SAVAK watched everything, listened to everything. It monitored mosques and seminaries. It tracked the movements of clerics. It arrested those who spoke too loudly, those who organized, those who dared to resist. Ali Khamenei had returned to Mashhad from his studies in Qom. He was teaching, preaching, organizing, distributing literature that criticized the Shah's regime. He knew what he was doing was dangerous. He did it anyway. In our next chapter, we follow him into the darkness of the Shah's prisons. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is the early 1960s. Ali Khamenei has returned to Mashhad from his studies in Qom. He is in his early 20s, young, determined, fearless. He begins to teach in the seminaries. He begins to preach in the mosques. He organizes small gatherings where young men come to listen, to discuss, to question. But it is not only religion he speaks about. He speaks about justice, about the condition of the poor, about the Shah's relationship with foreign powers, about what he sees as the betrayal of Iran's true identity. He distributes books and pamphlets, writings that the Shah's government has banned, words that Savak considers dangerous. And Savak is always watching. In 1963, Ayatollah Khomeini delivers a historic sermon attacking the Shah's white revolution. He is arrested, then exiled, first to Turkey, then to Iraq. The message is clear. Those who speak too loudly will be silenced. Ali Khamenei speaks anyway. And so the arrests begin. The first arrest, then the second, then the third. Between the early 1960s and the late 1970s, Ali Khamenei is arrested by Savak 6 times. 6 times he is taken from his home. 6 times he is put in a cell. 6 times he faces the agents of the Shah's secret police. The conditions in the prisons are harsh. He is held in Tehran's notorious Police Savak Joint Prison, a place he would later describe as something that could only be understood by those who had survived it. He is interrogated. He is pressured to name his associates, to reveal his networks, to abandon his activities. He does not break. Each time he is released, he returns to his work, teaching, preaching, organizing, as if the arrest had never happened. To those around him, this is remarkable. A man who walks out of prison and walks straight back into the struggle. In the autumn of 1975, he is released from what he calls his most difficult imprisonment. He is sent back to Mashhad, banned from teaching, banned from lecturing. But even in silence, he finds ways to continue. In our next chapter, we follow him into exile and toward the revolution that is already building beneath the surface of Iran. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is the winter of 1976. Ali Khamenei has been released from his most difficult imprisonment. He has been sent back to Mashhad, banned from teaching, banned from lecturing, banned from the public activities that had defined his life for more than a decade. But silence is not the same as surrender. Even under these restrictions, Khamenei continues, quietly, carefully, meeting with small groups, passing messages, keeping the network alive. Savak is watching. And in the winter of 1976, they move against him again. He is arrested for the last time under the Shah's regime. And this time, the sentence is different. Exile. 3 years of internal exile, sent away from Mashhad, away from his family, his students, his mosque, away from everything familiar. For a man whose entire life has been built around community, around teaching, around connection, exile is a particular kind of punishment. The days are long, the restrictions are tight. He cannot move freely, cannot speak publicly, cannot gather people around him. But he reads, he thinks, he writes, he prays, and he waits. Because outside, in the cities of Iran, something is happening, something that no prison and no exile could stop. The people of Iran are finding their voice. Strikes, marches, demonstrations in Tehran, in Isfahan, in Mashhad. Millions of Iranians taking to the streets, demanding change, demanding justice, demanding the end of the Shah's reign. The Shah's grip on power is beginning to loosen. In late 1978, the political conditions shift so dramatically that Khamenei's exile is effectively over. He returns to Mashhad. A few months before the triumph of the Islamic Revolution. He returns not as a defeated man, not as a broken man, but as a man who has waited, who has endured, who has never stopped believing in what was coming. In our next chapter, we witness the revolution itself, the moment everything changes for Iran and for Ali Khamenei. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1978. Iran is trembling. For months, the streets of its cities have been filling with people. Ordinary people, students, workers, merchants, clerics, mothers with children. They march, they chant. They hold photographs of Ayatollah Khomeini, who is still in exile in Iraq, then in France. The Shah declares martial law. His security forces open fire on crowds. Hundreds are killed, thousands are wounded. But the marches do not stop. They grow larger, day after day, week after week. In Mashhad, Ali Khamenei is at the center of it all. He is organizing demonstrations, coordinating with revolutionary networks across the country, mobilizing the mosques, turning houses of prayer into houses of resistance. He has waited for this moment for nearly 2 decades, through 6 arrests, through exile, through years of silence and restriction. And now it is here. On January 16, 1979, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi boards a plane and leaves Iran. He tells his people, He's going on vacation. He never returns. On February 1, 1979, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini lands at Tehran's Mehrabad airport. Millions of people line the streets, weeping, cheering, reaching toward him. It is one of the largest public gatherings in human history. Within 10 days, the imperial government collapses. The Iranian Revolution is complete. For Ali Khamenei, this is the fulfillment of everything he has worked toward, everything he has suffered for, everything he has believed in since he first sat in Khomeini's classroom, in calm. A new Iran is being born, and Ali Khamenei will be at the heart of it. In our next chapter, we follow him into the new republic and toward a moment of sudden and violent danger. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1981. The Islamic Republic of Iran is only 2 years old. It is fragile, contested, under siege. The revolution has triumphed, but the revolutionaries are not united. Inside Iran, different factions compete for power. Liberals, Marxists, Islamists. All of them fought together to bring down the Shah. Now they fight each other over what comes next. Outside Iran, enemies gather. Iraq, under Saddam Hussein, has launched a full-scale invasion. The Iran-Iraq war has begun. A war that will last 8 years, a war that will consume hundreds of thousands of lives. And inside the country itself, a militant group called the Mojahedin-e-Khalq, the MEK, has declared war on the Islamic Republic. They plant bombs, they assassinate officials, they strike without warning. Ali Khamenei is now a senior figure in the new government. He is close to Khomeini. He is a target. On June 27, 1981, Khamenei is at the Abu Da Mosque in Tehran. He is delivering a sermon. The room is full of people. A bomb has been hidden inside a tape recorder placed near the podium. It detonates. The explosion tears through the room. People are thrown to the ground. Smoke fills the air. There is chaos screaming. Ali Khamenei survives, but the damage to his body is severe. The blast destroys the nerves in his right arm. For months he lies in hospital, recovering, fighting, refusing to disappear from public life. His right hand will never fully recover. For the rest of his life, it hangs at his side, partially paralyzed, a permanent reminder of that day in the mosque. He is 42 years old. Many men would have stepped back, would have chosen safety over service. Ali Khamenei does not step back. Within months of the attack, he returns to public life. He runs for the presidency of Iran. And he wins. In our next chapter, we follow him into the highest office in the Republic, into the years of war, and into a role that will define a decade. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is 1981. Ali Khamenei has survived an assassination attempt that destroyed the nerves in his right arm. He has spent months recovering in hospital. And now he is running for president. The Islamic Republic of Iran is young and unstable. Just months before, President Mohammad Ali Rajai was killed in another bombing. The country is in crisis. It needs leadership quickly. Ali Khamenei is elected President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. He is 42 years old. It is a position of enormous responsibility. But in the structure of the Islamic Republic, the president is not the highest authority. Above the president stands the supreme leader. Above all else stands Khomeini. Khamenei understands his role clearly. He is loyal to Khomeini, completely unwaveringly. He implements the vision of the revolution with discipline and dedication. His 8 years as president are dominated by one overwhelming reality: war. The Iran-Iraq War, launched by Saddam Hussein in 1980, a brutal, grinding conflict that will last until 1988. Khamenei serves as Khomeini's representative to the High Council of Defense. He visits the front lines. He meets the soldiers, fighting in the mud and fire of the western deserts. He sees the cost of the war with his own eyes. Hundreds of thousands of Iranians will die in this conflict. Young men, boys barely old enough to hold a weapon. The war shapes Khamenei deeply. It hardens something in him, strengthens his conviction that Iran must be self-reliant, that the country cannot depend on foreign powers for its survival, that weakness invites attack. During these years, he also grows closer to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, the elite military force created to protect the revolution. This relationship will define much of what comes later. In 1985, he is re-elected president for a second 4-year term. He serves faithfully, consistently, without scandal, without drama. A loyal soldier of the revolution, waiting as he has always waited. In our next chapter, the man who taught him everything draws his last breath, and Ali Khamenei's life changes forever. Rest now, the story continues. We continue our story. It is the spring of 1989. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini is dying. The founder of the Islamic Republic, the man who had inspired a revolution, who had returned from exile to the roar of millions, who had shaped every institution, every law, every principle of the new Iran. He is 89 years old. His health has been failing for some time. His body is giving way. But the question on everyone's mind is not when he will die. It is who will come after him. The Islamic Republic has a clear answer in its constitution. The supreme leader must be a grand Ayatollah, a cleric of the highest religious rank, a man of vast learning and authority, a marja, a source of emulation for millions of believers. Khomeini's original choice for successor was Ayatollah Montazeri, a senior cleric, a respected scholar, a man with the proper credentials. But in the months before Khomeini's death, a rift opens between them. Montazeri criticizes the government, questions some of its decisions. Khomeini removes him. And now there is no clear successor. The question hangs over Iran like a storm cloud. Inside the assembly of experts, the body responsible for selecting the next supreme leader, names are discussed, lists are drawn up, a council of leadership is proposed. On June 3, 1989, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini passes away. Iran falls into mourning. Millions pour into the streets of Tehran, a sea of black of tears, of grief so raw and overwhelming that the funeral becomes chaos. The coffin is nearly lost in the crowd. It is one of the largest funeral gatherings in history. And somewhere in that crowd, Ali Khamenei is watching, grieving the man who had been his teacher, his leader, his guide. Not knowing yet what the next 24 hours will bring. In our next chapter, we witness the moment that surprises all of Iran. Rest now, the story continues. We continue our story. It is June 4, 1989. Ayatollah Khomeini has been dead for less than 24 hours. Iran is in mourning. The streets are filled with grief. The future of the Islamic Republic is uncertain. Inside a closed session of the Assembly of Experts, 83 senior clerics are gathered. They must choose the next supreme leader, the next Rabbah, the next guardian of the revolution. The Iranian constitution is clear on what this person must be. A grand Ayatollah, a Marja, a source of religious emulation for the Shah faithful. Ali Khamenei does not meet these requirements. He is a cleric, a learned man, a faithful servant of the Republic, but he has never completed the advanced level of religious studies required to be called a grand Ayatollah. His title is Hojatul Islam, a respected rank, but not the highest. And yet, in the final weeks of his life, Khomeini himself had spoken. He had said that the next supreme leader did not need to be a grand Ayatollah, that a pious and experienced cleric with knowledge of Islamic law would be sufficient. The constitution would need to be changed, and it would be. But first, a decision must be made. The Assembly of Experts deliberates, names are discussed, a council of leadership is proposed, and then set aside. And then, on June 4, 1989, the Assembly of Experts elects Ali Khamenei as the second supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. He is 50 years old. Many are surprised, some are skeptical. Senior clerics with far greater religious credentials had not been chosen. Khamenei himself, in a video that would surface years later, admitted before the assembly that he did not feel religiously qualified for the position. But the revolution needed continuity. It needed stability. It needed a man who had proven his loyalty through decades of sacrifice. Ali Khamenei was that man. In the months that followed, the Iranian constitution was revised. The qualifications for supreme leader were loosened. The position of prime minister was abolished. The power of the supreme leader was significantly expanded. What had begun as a compromise choice would become something else entirely. In our next chapter, we watch as Ali Khamenei begins the slow and careful work of building his authority. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. It is June 4, 1989. Ayatollah Khomeini has been dead for less than 24 hours. Iran is in mourning. The streets are filled with grief. The future of the Islamic Republic is uncertain. Inside a closed session of the Assembly of Experts, 83 senior clerics are gathered. They must choose the next supreme leader, the next Robe, the next guardian of the revolution. The Iranian constitution is clear on what this person must be: a grand Ayatollah, a marja, a source of religious emulation for the Shah faithful. Ali Khamenei does not meet these requirements. He is a cleric, a learned man, a faithful servant of the Republic, but he has never completed the advanced level of religious studies required to be called a grand Ayatollah. His title is Hojatul Islam, a respected rank, but not the highest. And yet, in the final weeks of his life, Khomeini himself had spoken. He had said that the next supreme leader did not need to be a grand Ayatollah, that a pious and experienced cleric with knowledge of Islamic law would be sufficient. The constitution would need to be changed, and it would be. But first, a decision must be made. The Assembly of Experts deliberates, names are discussed, a council of leadership is proposed and then set aside. And then, on June 4, 1989, the Assembly of Experts elects Ali Khamenei as the second supreme leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran. He is 50 years old. Many are surprised, some are skeptical. Senior clerics with far greater religious credentials have not been chosen. Khamenei himself, in a video that would surface years later, admitted before the assembly that he did not feel religiously qualified for the position. But the revolution needed continuity. It needed stability. It needed a man who had proven his loyalty through decades of sacrifice. Ali Khamenei was that man. We continue our story. It is the early 1990s. Ali Khamenei has been supreme leader for only a short time, and many in Iran are not convinced he belongs in the role. Senior Grand Ayatollahs with far greater religious credentials look at him with skepticism. Some refuse to recognize his authority in matters of religious law. The position feels uncertain, almost temporary. But Khamenei is patient. He has always been patient. He understands that authority is not simply declared. It is built, slowly, carefully, by brick. He begins to consolidate. He strengthens his relationship with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, the most powerful military force in Iran, loyal not to the president, not to the parliament, but to the supreme leader. He appoints trusted allies to key positions: the judiciary, the state media, the Guardian Council, which oversees all elections and all legislation. Slowly, the institutions of the Republic begin to align behind him. In 1997, something unexpected happens. A reformist cleric named Mohammad Khatami wins the presidential election by a landslide. Khatami speaks of dialogue, of civil society, of opening Iran to the wider world. The young people of Iran embrace him with enormous enthusiasm. For a moment, it seems as though Iran might change direction. But Khamenei holds the deeper levers of power. He allows Khatami to speak. He allows limited reforms. But when reformist newspapers push too far, they are shut down. When student protests grow too loud, security forces respond. The boundaries are clear. Change is permitted. Revolution is not. By the time Khatami's presidency ends in 2005, much of the optimism has faded. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, a hardline conservative, wins the next election. His priorities align far more closely with Khamenei's vision. The supreme leader's authority is now beyond serious challenge. What began as an unexpected appointment has become something that no one in Iran can ignore or dismiss. In our next chapter, we turn to the world beyond Iran's borders, to the foreign policy that will define Khamenei's legacy on the global stage. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. By the mid-1990s, Ali Khamenei has consolidated his position as supreme leader of Iran. Now the question becomes not how to hold power, but what to do with it. His answer is built on a single word: resistance. From the earliest days of his leadership, Khamenei believes that Iran must not bend to the will of outside powers, not to America, not to Europe, not to anyone. He calls this the axis of resistance, a network of alliances built across the Middle East, groups and governments that share Iran's rejection of Western influence in the region. In Lebanon, Iran deepens its support for Hezbollah, a powerful Shia militant group that fights Israel and holds enormous influence in Lebanese politics. In Palestine, Iran supports Hamas. In Yemen, the Houthi movement. In Iraq and Syria, various Shia militias aligned with Tehran. Thread by thread, Khamenei weaves a web of influence across the region. And then there is the nuclear question. Under Khamenei's leadership, Iran expands its nuclear program. The government insists it is for peaceful purposes only, for energy, for medicine. The West is not convinced. Sanctions follow. Wave after wave of economic pressure designed to force Iran to abandon or limit its nuclear ambitions. The Iranian economy suffers. The currency falls, inflation rises. Ordinary people feel the weight of every sanction in their daily lives. But Khamenei does not yield. He frames the sanctions not as punishment for wrongdoing, but as proof of his argument that the West wishes to dominate Iran, that resistance is the only answer. In 2015, a nuclear agreement is reached, the JCPOA, a deal between Iran and the major world powers. Iran agrees to limit its nuclear activities. In exchange, sanctions are eased. But in 2018, the United States withdraws from the deal. Sanctions return harder than before. And Khamenei's argument becomes, to many Iranians, harder to dispute. In our next chapter, we turn inward to the voices inside Iran that Khamenei could never fully silence. Rest now. The story continues. We continue our story. For over 3 decades, Ali Khamenei held the Islamic Republic together. He navigated wars. He outlasted sanctions. He survived assassination attempts. He buried rivals and reformed constitutions. But there was one force he could never fully control: his own people. It begins in 2009. Presidential elections are held. The reformist candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi runs against the incumbent Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. When the results are announced, Ahmadinejad is declared the winner by an overwhelming margin. Millions of Iranians do not believe it. They pour into the streets, green scarves and ribbons, the color of Mousavi's campaign, chanting, marching, demanding answers. It becomes known as the Green Movement, one of the largest protests in Iran's history since the revolution itself. Khamenei makes his position clear. He stands behind the election result. He declares the protests illegitimate. Security forces move in. Dozens are killed. Thousands are arrested. The movement is crushed. But something has changed. A crack has appeared in the wall of the Islamic Republic. 10 years later, in 2019, protests erupt again. This time over fuel prices, over economic hardship, over the weight of sanctions on ordinary families. The response is swift and severe. Internet connections are cut across the country. Security forces open fire. Hundreds are killed in a matter of days. And then, in September 2022, a young woman named Mahsa Amini dies in the custody of the morality police. She had been arrested for allegedly not wearing her hijab correctly. Iran erupts. Woman, life, freedom. The chant echoes from Tehran to the smallest cities and towns. Young women remove their headscarves in public. Students protest on university campuses. Workers go on strike. It is the most sustained and widespread challenge to the Islamic Republic since its founding. Khamenei, now in his 80s, watches from behind the walls of his compound. The protests are suppressed as they always have been. But the questions they raise do not go away. In our next chapter, we follow Khamenei into the final and most dangerous years of his life. Rest now. The story continues. continue our story. It is the early 2020s. Ali Khamenei is in his 80s. He has been supreme leader for more than 30 years. He has outlasted presidents, outlasted protests, outlasted sanctions, outlasted every prediction of the Republic's collapse. But the world around him is changing faster than at any point in his long rule. The protests of 2022 have shaken something deep inside Iranian society. The young generation is different from those before. They have smartphones. They have access to the world. They see another kind of life, and they want it. Khamenei watches this from behind the walls of his compound. He speaks rarely in public. His appearances are carefully controlled. His health is a subject of constant speculation. In 2023, he undergoes surgery. The details are not made public, but the images that emerge show a man who has aged significantly slower, thinner. The fire in his eyes still present, but the body carrying a great weight. And yet the conflicts he has spent a lifetime building toward are accelerating around him. In October 2023, Hamas attacks Israel. From the Gaza Strip, Israel responds with devastating force. The region is set ablaze. In June 2025, a 12-day war erupts between Israel and Iran directly. For the first time in history, the two countries exchange direct military strikes. Israel, with American support, inflicts serious damage on Iran's military infrastructure. Key commanders of the IRGC are killed. Iran's air defenses are degraded. Its nuclear facilities are targeted. The regime that Khamenei has built over 36 years is militarily weakened in a matter of days. Iran fires back. Missiles and drones cross into Israeli territory, into Saudi Arabia, into Kuwait, into the United Arab Emirates. The Middle East holds its breath. And in Tehran, an 86-year-old man prepares for what is coming next. In our final chapter, we arrive at the last day, February 28, 2026. Rest now. The story continues. We arrive at the end of our story. It is February 28, 2026. Tehran is a city on edge. For weeks, the skies over Iran have carried the sound of aircraft, the distant rumble of explosions, the alerts and sirens that have become part of daily life. The 2026 Iran war has been building for months. American and Israeli forces have been striking at Iran's military infrastructure, at its air defenses, at its nuclear facilities, at its most senior commanders. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has lost generals, naval commanders, men who had served the Republic for decades. And through it all, Ali Khamenei has remained in his compound in Tehran, 86 years old, 36 years as supreme leader, the longest serving head of state in the Middle East. On the night of February 28, American and Israeli forces launch a coordinated strike on senior Iranian leadership targets. One of those targets is the compound of Ali Khamenei. The strike hits. On March 1, 2026, Iranian state media confirms what the world already suspects. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead. He is 86 years old. For a moment, the entire region holds its breath. The man who had stood at the center of the Islamic Republic for 36 years is gone. The man who had shaped Iran's relationship with the world, who had built the axis of resistance, who had guided the nuclear program, who had outlasted 8 American presidents, who had survived 1 assassination attempt and 6 imprisonments and decades of sanctions and waves of protest. Gone. His second son, Mojtaba, who had been quietly groomed for years as a potential successor, is appointed in his place. Iran enters a period of national mourning, and the world begins the long and uncertain process of understanding what comes next. Tonight we have followed the life of Ali Khamenei, from a small house in Mashhad, from the maktab where he learned to read, from the seminaries where he found his calling, from the prisons where he refused to break, from the revolution that changed everything, from the unexpected appointment that gave him the highest office in the land, to the final night in a city under fire. Whatever judgment history will make of the decisions he took, whatever one believes about the republic he led, the journey of this man, from that small room with bread and raisins to the center of world history, is one of the most extraordinary of the 20th and 21st centuries. A boy from a holy city, a student of a great teacher, a prisoner who would not be broken, a leader who held power longer than almost anyone. Tonight, we have told his story, slowly, calmly from the beginning. Now rest. The story has been told. Sleep well. We arrive at the end of our story. It is February 28, 2026. Tehran is a city on edge. For weeks, the skies over Iran have carried the sound of aircraft, the distant rumble of explosions, the alerts and sirens that have become part of daily life. The 2026 Iran war has been building for months. American and Israeli forces have been striking at Iran's military infrastructure, at its air defenses, at its nuclear facilities, at its most senior commanders. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has lost generals, naval commanders, men who had served the Republic for decades. And through it all, Ali Khamenei has remained in his compound in Tehran, 86 years old. 36 years as supreme leader, the longest-serving head of state in the Middle East. On the night of February 28, American and Israeli forces launch a coordinated strike on senior Iranian leadership targets. One of those targets is the compound of Ali Khamenei. The strike hits. On March 1, 2026, Iranian state media confirms what the world already suspects. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead. He is 86 years old. For a moment, the entire region holds its breath.
The man who had stood at the center of the Islamic Republic for 36 years is gone. The man who had shaped Iran's relationship with the world, who had built the axis of resistance, who had guided the nuclear program, who had outlasted 8 American presidents, who had survived 1 assassination attempt and 6 imprisonments and decades of sanctions and waves of protest. Gone. His second son, Mojtaba, who had been quietly groomed for years as a potential successor, is appointed in his place. Iran enters a period of national mourning, and the world begins the long and uncertain process of understanding what comes next. Tonight, we've followed the life of Ali Khamenei, from a small house in Mashhad, from the maktab where he learned to read, from the seminaries where he found his calling, from the prisons where he refused to break, from the revolution that changed everything, from the unexpected appointment that gave him the highest office in the land, to the final night in a city under fire. Whatever judgment history will make of the decisions he took, whatever one believes about the republic he led, the journey of this man